Roll call, please, Ms. City Clerk.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Here.
Mayor Silva.
Present.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Present.
Councilmember Villegas Walker is absent.
And for the record, she's attending a conference for her day job with the county. Mr. Jackson, can you lead us in the pledge? Ms. Sanders, can you lead us in the invocation?
Yes.
Join me. Ready, begin.
Our Heavenly Father, we've come this evening seeking your divine guidance. Lord, with all of the strife and confusion that is going on in the world, we ask that you bring peace and calm. For all of those who do not know you, we ask that you reveal yourself to them. And for those that are in the audience and in the sound of my voice, we ask that you would bring them blessings. And for those of us here at the dais, we ask for your divine intervention, that the decisions we make will benefit the citizens of this community. This is my prayer in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Next item on the agenda is the report on closed session by our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Sanders, the City Council met in closed session at 5:02 p.m. All council members were present except Councilmember Villegas Walker, who was absent, and Councilmember Cardenas arrived at 5:03 p.m. A report was given to council on the anticipated litigation items. There is no final action to report on either item, but direction was given to staff on both. The council considered the performance evaluation of the city attorney. The city manager and the city attorney excused themselves from the report when the discussion began at 5:37 p.m. There is no action coming from closed session, and closed session concluded at 6:02 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Before we start with scheduled public comments, I need to let the council know that on the consent agenda and the items that we have there, we are going to be tabling item number 9. There's some additional information that's going to come forward, and also we'll be tabling item number 10. That is being done at the request of Councilmember Walker. So when we get to that point, it's items 3 through 8, unless another council member wishes to pull something for discussion. We have a couple of presentations that are scheduled. One is we'd like to give a certificate of appreciation to our friends from the Calexico Neighborhood House and Mr. Ortega for the wonderful work that you've done in providing meals to our children the last year. And so we wanted to give you a token of appreciation, Ricardo, for your service for our community. But can you come to the podium and tell us a little bit about the services that you provided, and we can learn a little bit more about it?
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for this recognition. It's really an honor and appreciate it very much so. First of all, as you probably may know, there's a lot of people who are responsible for this, all the cooks that are at the neighborhood house, which are, by the way, really good cooks, really good food that we prepare. Everything is homemade style. Of course, all the other persons that deliver the food up to El Centro. We personally also we've been delivering to all different locations in the county. We're now going all the way up to Westmoreland, Holtville, Brawley, and Calexico, of course. And because it's actually the quality of the food, basically we just prepare everything there in our kitchen. But I also would like to thank the city workers, if you will, that were responsible to make this happen. Of course, it's Pat Ureña, Denise Morris, the Lois Shelton, of course, Deborah Harold. Basically, they're the persons that coordinated and worked with Cindy Alba, which is our food program coordinator. We still are continuing to provide services. As you may know, we still provide about 75 snacks to the El Centro Public Library. We still are continuing to do that. And if El Centro ever needs more meals, we're happy to provide that. This past summer, we actually bought another vehicle just because of the demand and that we're having from different locations. So we're ready to continue to do that. So
in the information that we have, Ricardo, it says that you provided 30,000
Right.
346 meals to children of El Centro.
That is fantastic. That's great. And it's all to the workers that, daily workers, daily cooks, delivery, and of course, the persons there at the center. And that's really what we're about. The neighborhood house's primary focus is children and women. Children and women, that's basically our mission. It's on our mission statement. So we're really happy to work with El Centro City. And anything else that we can do, just please call on us and we'll be there. Thank you very much.
So we'd like to give you a certificate of appreciation that will go down and so we can take a photo op with you,
Okay.
Ricardo, but I'll read it for the benefit of the audience. Says that in appreciation for your providing 30,346 after-school meals for children in El Centro from November 2014 through September 2015, Project Champs. So thank you for this, Ricardo. Thank you for what you do for our community. I know you've been with Neighborhood House for a long, long time. I've known
Yes.
you for a long, long time, and I know
Yeah.
how much you've been an icon in our community in providing for the needy, so thank you for that as well. So the council want to join me, in, do we have a camera somewhere?
Yes, we do, right? Yes, we have a camera.
Need to have a camera?
No, Liz has the camera. We have the. Back in your box.
Ricardo. Okay, next item on the agenda is presentation by Mr. Dale regarding the status of the Seaport Air and future plans. Mr. Dale, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm going to change it up a little bit tonight. I brought in the big boss. So I'd like to introduce, my pleasure, our Executive Vice President, Tim Sieber.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Mayor, council members. Our most basic promise to our customers is to get you on time where you're going with your stuff. And candidly, we've been failing at that in this community as well as across the country for about 9 months. I want to tell you how we got there and how we're going to get out of this mess. So early last year, 2014 rather, the U.S. government instituted a new pilot regulations of experience. And they implemented this on the on the horizon. There was this wave of retirements coming in the airline industry. So there is a national pilot shortage across this country right now. In fact, SkyWest Airlines, the airline that used to serve this community with the 30-seat airplanes, they had to put all those airplanes on the ground because there's a limited number of pilots, and they said those pilots would be better off flying jets. We need, for an example, in Memphis, 28 captains to fly our base. We currently have 7. Here in California, we're running full schedules in California. We're running full schedules in Oregon. Our Memphis base has been a real problem for us. It is a culture of commuters, as we say, because FedEx flies there. These people can get a crash pad. They can fly in there. They can confirm their seat home 2 days prior. So that has been absorbing all of management's attention, trying to address that problem. And so, meanwhile, we've got California and the West Coast falling apart on us. The second issue, how we got here, is we were using contract maintenance here. And that worked okay when we had just one service in El Centro, but now we stretch all the way up to Sacramento or into Mexico. and they just were not prepared to handle the level of maintenance activity. So what we're doing to address both those things is, one is we have put together this pilot recruitment program and a retention program. We are working with Purdue University, so the student that comes out of Purdue University with their hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt, as many of us know, we will pay off your student loans for you as you work with us, and to the point where our chairman of the board has gone out and purchased a jet airline that will be affiliated with Seaport. So they'll be pilots will flow from our airplanes into the jets, and then these are regional jets, and they'll flow into a major airline. So we'll probably get 6, 7 years out of pilot, and that's where we pay back the student loans during that period. You know, we've also put in a program where we're doing hiring bonuses, and we're doing referral bonuses for our employees if they refer a pilot to us and that pilot makes it through training. You know, I'll be candid with you and tell you that when we're competing with other airlines that are offering $20,000 signing bonuses to pilots, that's an uphill, that's pushing a string up a hill, but anything we can do to do that. On the maintenance side, we have hired a new director of maintenance who comes to us actually with a PhD and is helping us totally reorganize our maintenance department. We, after 30 years, have closed our operations in Alaska, and we have moved the parts and tooling from our Juneau maintenance facility to Burbank, California. We now have our own hangar in Burbank that is staffed. And one of the things that we're doing is we are going over every single one of these airplanes that have been maintained by the contractors for the last 2 years. We also have a new data and analytics position. So a position within our company, this young lady has 2 degrees in mathematics. One of them is from Alfred University in New York. And her job is to do predictive analytics on stuff that when stuff, you know, there's items that have points of failure. And her job is just to identify this stuff before those points of failure come, as well as to make sure that we have the right parts in the right place at the right time. So I'm just looking here at my notes here real quick here. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, and the one last thing too is that what we've done is we've actually closed 4 cities in our Memphis operation. You know, we believe our future's in California, Oregon, and Washington. So we've closed 4 cities, and we think that, you know, our job is to go back to running the good airline that we used to run, and we're going to run a smaller airline, but it's going to be a good airline once again. This has been a very humbling experience for us, and it's one that, you know, quite candidly, we got out over our ski tips in this one. We lost the quality of service that communities such as, you know, El Centro and Imperial and many of our other ES communities had that was their reason for selecting us. We're going to go back to being that airline. We're going to be much smaller, but we're going to be a better airline for it. I do want to bring one thing to everybody's attention is I know that there is the Valley does go to Washington every year and meet with lobbyists. You know, the EAS program there will be because of these problems, which candidly some of them are because of us, the level of subsidy will be above the $200 limit. Our understanding from DOT is that everybody will get a pass this first time around. You know, we're going to write a letter to DOT saying that, you know, we're to blame for this. You know, we're contributing to this fact. People have turned away from the service, and you know, we'd like you to give the community another chance. But we're also going to come back to DOT and say, you know, our pilot training costs alone this year are up $800,000. So when you're telling us to maintain a level of subsidy, which is a number that was established in 1989, but you're imposing new regulations upon us, it's a very tough mandate for us to meet. So our message to them is twofold. Is one, this community deserves another chance because we accept responsibility for what's happened here in the last 9 months for sure. But 2, that number $200 has got to be changed. And so Jeff will be providing each one of our ES communities some talking points on that issue. And we're not the only airline talking about that as well, because all airlines are facing, particularly the smaller ones, are facing this pilot training challenge. What I'm committing to you today is that either Jeff or myself will come before this council every 3 months and give you our stats, tell you how many flights we scheduled, how many we flew, how many were on time. And when they were late, why were they late? And what are we doing? This is a continuous improvement process. It's not something that we're going to fix overnight. You know, it's probably going to be a couple weeks before we get all of these airplanes through and through our new maintenance procedures. But they're going to be much more reliable airplanes. And so with that, I can take any other questions.
Thank you so much for being here and for accepting responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's not easy, it's not an easy thing to do, to come before a body like this and say we accept responsibility and we're responsible for the deficiencies that we've been seeing and we've been hearing, so I appreciate that from you. And you kind of touched upon something that I wanted to expand a little bit and then ask you a question on.
Sure.
A lot of these efforts that you mentioned and challenges that you had in terms of recruitment, maintenance, those are things that don't get fixed overnight.
No, they
There's
don't.
a process. But do you realistically anticipate that the level of service is going to improve that drastically in about 2 weeks, or would there be a
Well,
longer window?
the aircraft, the aircraft maintenance thing will be, there'll be a learning curve on that for sure, and I think you'll see that. In fact, I will tell you this, that for the first time, last week, for the first time in probably 6 months, we had 4 days where we completed 100% of our scheduled flights. I mean, this director of maintenance is just, I've never seen anybody like him. His name is Bo Johnson. We ever say Bo knows, because Bo knows. He knows how to fix the maintenance department. But it's not going to be perfect. It will take some time. Pilot recruitment is going to be more of an issue. But I will say this: when we closed our Alaska operation, we had 12 full-time pilots up there. We'd have summer seasonal pilots, but we had 12 full-time pilots up there. 8 of them chose to come to the lower 48 and work for us. Only one wanted to go to Vegas. No, not Vegas. Wanted to go to Memphis. They all wanted to come to either California or Oregon. So, that has taken some pressure off the West. There is a quality of life in California. There's a quality of life in Portland that helps us attract pilots. And because there's not this culture of commuters here, our pilots actually live in Southern California, actually live in the Portland area. Then they start putting children in schools, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to leave. But no, it's not going to be overnight. And candidly, it's going to be probably, it won't be this coming graduation season, but it'll be the next graduation season before we see the first Purdue graduates. We have this manager of pilot recruitment now, and with the signing bonuses, so we have full-time resources on this problem, which we had in the past. There was this kind of light bulb, and it's like, okay, how come we didn't see this all the time? You can't fix a problem you don't put resources at. And we were just going through these. We get resumes. We get probably 100 resumes a week. 90 of them probably not qualified. But what we found is because the online application process was so onerous, and we compared that to other airlines' application processes, it's like, why would I fill out this, what is effectively a 10-page form? When I can fill out this little form, I'll get a telephone screening interview and say, yeah, we want you to come up to Portland, or we want you to come to San Diego for an interview. Now go online and fill out that 10-page form. At least somebody knows, hey, I'm in the game, before they spend all that time. So, we revised some of our business processes and things like that. It's not going to be fixed overnight. I mean, I'm going to be candid with you, but I'm hoping that maybe next time Jeff is here or I'm here, we can put a hockey stick up on the board.
Good. And I have more questions, but I'll ask one more right now. Is what do you have planned in terms of PR campaign or marketing campaign to rebuild
So that's just it. We're first, candidly, we're going to get our act together, because right now, we don't have a heck of a product to sell right now. And then we're going to go out and we're going to put money back in advertising in here, put some billboards back on the streets, print and some radio, and Jeff's going to get back on the rubber chicken circuit and spread the word. We talked about putting together what I think is a pretty strong corporate sales account program, that really incentivize corporations to utilize the Imperial County Airport. But Jeff was very candid with me today and said, I can't sell that right now. So when we have a product to sell, we're going to sell hard. We want to be in this community. We're invested. I've been saying for a long time, California for us is the promised land, and we need to get our act together.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Ms. Sanders?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I do have several observations
Sure.
there. One, I see you began to lay out what I'm going to call some of your managerial issues. One is your pilot recruitment and retention. The other is your on-time flight. And then the third is perhaps what are you going to do with your maintenance? Then I see another component that's significant, and that is when you go to the Department of Transportation, what do you think we could do to assist you as you began to try and get some additional dollars
Right.
end to the coffers so that some of the challenges that you face can be met?
Right. So I think that the issue is going to come up this year, and the FAA, the FAA reauthorization is coming through with the new budget. I think it's been actually, it's on an extension now. But the issue is the level of funding for EIS communities has to be below $200 per passenger. And that's just not a realistic number. That was the number that was established in 1989. It's just not a realistic number in this day and age. We took a brand-new airplane out of the factory. That was a $2.9 million airplane with only 9 seats in it. But that's the only 9-seat airplane that's available. So I think the message to the Department of Transportation, and really the message is to Congress and the Senate, who writes the budget, is that $200 number is just not a realistic number in this day and age.
But with, if I may, Mr. Mayor, if I may continue this, we know that.
Yeah.
I know that, you know
Yeah.
that. Help us understand how we convey that message in the tight budgetary constraints that's happening in
Yeah.
Washington, that they need to do this, especially for underserved communities
Right.
that would not have this type of thing. And I'm going to suggest that we have to use that as the criteria, began to establish without this type of service, a community such as Imperial County would not have any kind of, so
It
that.
is, you and I are reading the same book, because the message that I say is that, air service, we live in a global economy, and air service is as ubiquitous as the postal service. You mail a letter from one end of Manhattan Island to the other, it's 48 cents. You mail a letter from Manhattan Island to somewhere in the Imperial Valley, it's 48 cents, okay? There are certain functions of government, okay, that operate at a loss. The issue is that, airline service came here as part of the Postal Service. That's how airline service first arrived here. For the government to just cut off subsidies to a community like this, it puts you at an economic disadvantage, on the global stage. I'll give you a little bit of an example. Is Jeff and I were up in Moses Lake, Washington last week. There's a community that is very much like this, an agricultural community, and they bring in students from Japan to teach them agriculture. They're going to be bringing over a new jet that the Mitsubishi Corporation is going to be flight testing out there. And this service is the most important thing with that community. Our new service to Seattle from that community is it is allowing this economic development to happen. And that's the message that Washington has to get, is that they will. And as far as the budgetary constraints go, the Essential Air Service Program has 2 sources of funding. One is the ticket tax that we pay whenever we fly, okay? And the second thing is it's overflight, it's navigation charges to foreign airlines that transit our airspace.
Right. So
Yes, the Essential Air Service Program is $80 million over budget on an annual basis. And that's because the arbitrary number that Congress sets is too low, $130 million. We're at $210 this year. So that $80 million could go to some other aviation-related project, and they keep saying it could go to the modernization of the air traffic control system. But we don't have a plan to modernize the air traffic control system quite yet, or one that really works. So in the interim, let's keep this program going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more, Ms. Sanders? Any more questions?
I just wanted to say, we understand that, in this transportation nexus,
Yeah.
there's air, ground, and rail.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out a way to merge them so that we can make sure that we're moving goods, services, and people.
Right.
So, thank you for coming.
You're welcome, and I hope to come with, like I said, a big hockey stick up on the board next time. Thank you for your time.
Hold on a second, let me see if
Yeah,
there's
sure.
other questions from the
Yes,
council.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you. I appreciate your candidness and accepting responsibility. The only question I had was, could you expand on or explain where you are with your Mexican operation? And is that still something that is in your plans for the future? Are you still continuing the service to, I think it was San Felipe?
Yeah, San Felipe, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are in San Felipe. We fly there 4 days a week during the winter. The market was barely break even last year. But what we have done is Jeff and I were down there a couple weeks ago, and we met with the folks in San Felipe. And what we have decided down there is we're going to discontinue service for the summer season, but we would reinstate that service like on special event weekends and stuff. But we'll service one April 30th. We'll stay through the Easter break there, and then we'll reinstate it for like around Labor Day next year. We are looking at Ensenada as a potential add-on. You know, we are working with the government of Mexico. You know, one of the challenges is, and to your point about automobiles, when we drive across the border, we don't pay the tourism tax. But when you arrive by air, they hit you up for $25 at the airport. So, you know, we're saying that puts air transportation at a disadvantage. The United States does not collect that air tax if you're arriving within 225 miles of the border. So what we're asking the Mexican government is to apply that on their side of the border as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, Mr. Jackson?
No.
Mr. Cardenas?
No, and just to kind of piggyback on Councilmember Jackson's comment, and also our mayor, or our city just recently signed a sisterhood agreement with the city of Mexicali, and
Okay.
they're very eager in doing business with us, so I would encourage, you know, to market, you know, in Mexicali as well, because a lot of those folks are using the Phoenix and the San Diego airports.
Right.
And those folks are looking for alternatives for, you know, convenience and not having to travel. I mean, there's a huge travel industry out there as well that utilize the U.S. network. So, again, you know, our partners below the border there, they help sustain our local economy, and I would encourage that we build relationships, you know, on the eve of our sisterhood agreement. And our mayor's has some very good relationships with their tourism group over there, so don't be shy about asking us to set up meetings and stuff like that.
We will do that. I appreciate that offer.
I have one more question. You talk about DOT maybe giving a pass on the, are you talking about the essential air service
you know,
designation?
What's going to happen is they're waiting for the September 30 numbers. They're tabulating all that, and then they're going to calculate what the level of subsidy was for each community, and then basically they'll issue a notice saying these communities, you know, their level of subsidy is above $200, so they're eligible to be terminated, and you know the communities will have to just write a letter saying, you know, these are the reasons why. You know, Jeff will be help you to formulate that letter. But you know, we expect we currently serve 7 communities in the EAS program. We expect 4 of those communities to be on that list. But we're going to I wouldn't call it a letter. I would call it a dissertation on why 200 is the wrong number.
A dissertation.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Dale had a question.
Yeah.
Or a comment.
Tim, what was the number that we had on, there was 100-something airports or 70?
Yeah.
that's a good
So
point,
there's about 130 airports left in the program, and we expect about 75 or 80 of those airports to be on that list. So that just tells you right there that it's not
There's an issue.
there's an issue with that number. And again, you know, it's a number that's pushing 1989. It's pushing 20 years old now, 30 years old, 20 years old. It's not a valid number in this day and age. You know, when, as an example, you know, we pay $12,000 a month in rent to San Diego Airport. You know, so it's a tough number.
So you volunteer to come to the council
Yes.
every 3 months.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that you can come to us earlier than that and give us an update since
Sure.
things to be very
So,
fluid and moving?
here's what I'll do is I will, I'll give you some progress reports. You know, it's, you know, 1 month does not make a trend, but I'll certainly present that. But I'll make this commitment is when that notice comes out from DOT, I'll come back and we'll discuss that notice.
Okay, very well.
Okay, but we'll also give you numbers there. But either Jeff or I will be here at least once every quarter. I think that's a good indication of, you know, it's like one inning in a baseball game doesn't make the game.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm brushing up on my Spanish very well. I've
Very
been
good.
working with Cotuco and
Cotuco.
Mexicali,
Good.
and it's a fantastic
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah,
with them
awesome.
too, so,
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Jeff.
Dale.
thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. I have indicated that we are going to be tabling items 9 and 10. Any council members wish to pull any of the items 3 through 8?
I'll move items 3 through 8 for approval.
So I have a motion by Jackson and a second by Cardenas. Please ballot.
You know what, maybe I'll have to use my mouse. Is it registry? Not yet? Okay.
Do we need to move in second again?
Let me set it again.
Okay, so let's reballot. I have a motion by Jackson, second by Sanders this time. Please ballot.
Sanders, can you please use the mouse? Are you using?
I'm using the mouse. It's not coming up?
She's on the second.
You,
I don't
It's registering as she's on the second.
Not, my screen has not changed.
Oh, there he goes.
okay.
There.
Motion passes 4-0. We have a number of general plan amendments and related actions. Let's start with item number 11. Are we combining 11, 12, 13? Let's combine items 11, 12, and 13. Change of zone, general plan amendment, and negative declaration for a multifamily residential located at 781 Olive Avenue in El Centro. Mrs. Villacaña.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. As the mayor mentioned, we have 4 general plan amendments and change of zones to be considered tonight. The first one is for 781 Olive. The parcel is presently zoned office commercial, and the applicant is requesting this change of zone to change that to a multiple family residential R3. This is one of those few parcels that we have within the city that are considered to be legal non-conforming. So in this case, a general plan amendment is required to change the land use from general commercial to high medium residential, and also a change of zone. So again, the purpose is to rezone, is to legalize a non-conforming use. And the reason the applicant purchased this property with the plan to rehab the existing home for residential use.
Go ahead.
The project site is located almost close to the southeast corner of Olive and 8th Street. The parcel is about 8,400 square feet. The site is currently has a single-family dwelling. Just a project location and surrounding land uses. To the north of the property, you have offices, real estate office. To the south, there's an alley, followed by apartments. To the east, you have a single-family, basically single-family residence, and to the west, a medical office. Again, current zoning is office commercial. Proposed zoning would be multiple family residential, which is R3. And the current land use designation is general commercial, so we're proposing to change that to high medium residential. This just gives you an idea of the existing and the proposed. The existing, as you can see, it's highlighted. It's office commercial, and proposed, it would be multifamily residential R3. Now, as you can see from the map, it would be consistent with all the land uses towards the east. And this is under the general plan amendment. It would become from CG to high-density residential. Just want to give you an idea. This is a view of the exterior of the home. As you can see, the property owner has secured the property. However, there's been a lot of code enforcement issues regarding just people going in there and so forth. So the property owner is anxious to get this home completed. Again, view from the driveway. In respects to environmental, a negative declaration was prepared, and no comments were received through the 20-day public review period. And at this time, we're asking, it did go to Planning Commission, and on October the 13th, and Planning Commission did recommend approval of the general plan amendment and change of zone. So at this time, we are requesting that the public hearing be opened, and we're also requesting that the 3 actions noted, approval of the negative declaration, general plan amendment, and change of zone be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I open the public hearing, Ms. Vicaña, you said that the property owner intends to build a single-family home in spite of it is being a,
Actually, he's planning on rehabbing the house,
Rehabbing the
renovating the house. Yeah, and the property owner.
as a single family?
Yes, the property as a single family. The property owner is in the audience if you have any questions.
Great. Let me ask the council if there's any questions before I open the public hearing. Any questions so far?
Not at this time,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor.
so let me go ahead and open the public hearing. Any member of the public has input testimony for the council related to items 11, 12, and 13 as presented by staff. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Any questions from the council, Mr. Cardenas?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, has the property owner disclosed any type of timeline? I know you said that he was anxious in doing this, but do you know how quick he'll be looking at rehabbing the property?
Actually, I was just speaking to him, and he's ready to start tomorrow. We had to put it on hold because of, he has building permits and everything ready, and he started renovating the house, but that's when we had to put it on hold until this change of zone and the general plan amendment is approved.
And that's what I was going to ask Ms. Villacaña, and I know it's probably ultimately the buyer's responsibility to determine the zoning prior to the actual construction, but what role does planning play prior to pulling the permit to let him know, hey, this is commercial as opposed to R3, or is there any type of, what do I want to say here? Is there any type of responsibility on the part of the city to let him know in advance, hey, you're pulling permits for this, however, it's zoned for that? And how does that process kind of work? Because I was just reading in the backup information again that he didn't know, and I was just curious on how we got to that point.
Yeah, typically staff tries to, whenever we get a building permit request, obviously we do our due diligence. In this case, because there's a single-family home, it just, it was an oversight, but so we're trying to correct that. Yeah. Again, we have a couple of legal non-conforming parcels throughout the city that are similar to this.
But it seems to me also that when the property was purchased, that would have been through that transaction, he would have been notified that there was a office commercial.
And it's my understanding from talking to the property owner that the listing from the realtor listed it as single-family residential. So.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Any questions from the council?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion from the council on resolution number 15.
107.
107, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro adopting negative deck 15-03 without monitoring for project, change of zone 15-03, and general plan amendment 15-03. A proposed change of zone from CO to R3, and general plan amendment for consistency with the zoning map consisting of approximately 0.19 acres of land located at 781 Olive Avenue. I have a motion by Mr. Jackson and second by Mr. Cardenas. Please ballot. I did push it. Okay, item passes 4-0. I'm looking for a motion for item 12, resolution 15-108, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving general plan amendment 15-03, changing the land use designation from general commercial to high medium density residential for property located at 781 Olive Avenue. I have a motion by Cardenas and a second by Sanders, and I need to vote. Item passes 4-0. I'm looking for a motion for item 13. That will be ordinance number 16. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Centro amending the zoning map of the City of El Centro pertaining to change of zone 15-03 waive reading and approve as first reading, and authorize city clerk to place on the next agenda for second reading and adoption. I have a motion by, and a second by Sanders, and item passes 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. Let's go on to item 14, 15, and 16.
Okay, thank you. The second general plan amendment and change of zone project that we have before you is the rezoning of half an acre of just vacant land from R1 single-family residential to R2 variable residential. So the request to rezone requires a general plan amendment to change the land use from single-family residential to medium-density residential. And the purpose of the rezone is to allow the development of duplex units. The location is the southwest corner of Pico and 12th Street. And again, it's about half an acre, and the current use is vacant land. To the north, you have single-family residential uses. To the east, you have the proposed 12th Street and also a proposed a currently cited single-family residential home, and then a proposed, which has been approved by the Planning Commission, church on that site. Now, south, you have vacant land and other uses that are legal, non-conforming uses. And to the west, you have vacant land and single-family residential.
Norma?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, quick question. You said that the property, or I guess that's in essence almost the same property that's adjacent to the project location, that's the site that's been approved for a church?
Across from 12th Street to the east of 12th Street. It was recently approved under a CUP, a church, where the house is east of 12th Street.
Where it looks like there's a bunch of piles of dirt?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a different parcel from.
And that's a CUP?
That was through a CUP.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the existing zoning is R1, and the proposed would be R2. Along with the general plan amendment and change of zone, the property owner, the applicant, has applied for a parcel map. So the site will be divided into 3 parcels, and that has been approved by the Planning Commission. It was approved last month. Again, existing land use and the proposed land use. Now, the R2 zone would allow the development of duplex and multifamily units, maximum density of 12 units per acre. And the proposed zoning will be compatible with residential zone properties and adjacent roadways. And obviously, of course, prior to issuing any building permits, a site plan review must be completed. And that would determine improvements on 12th Street, all parking requirements and so forth. Again, just photographs of the site from Pico Avenue and then off of 12th Street. So again, a negative declaration was prepared in conformance with CEQA, and no significant comments were received from the public. And the Planning Commission did consider the project and is recommending approval. So at this time, we are recommending that a public hearing be opened and the 3 action items be approved: negative declaration, change of zone, and the general plan amendment.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. Before I open the public hearing, let me see if there's questions from the council. I do have a couple of questions. One is the surrounding zoning around the property will remain R1, correct?
Yes.
So are we creating an R2 island there?
Well, at this time we are, but because of the large lot size within the entire area, I know that there's been there's no guarantees, but there's been a lot of interest in subdividing those lots and make them a multifamily residential or even light commercial, neighborhood commercial, because being closer to Imperial Avenue, the closer you get to Imperial Avenue, those are the uses that are kind of being, we get inquiries a lot.
I have to agree with our mayor. I'm not opposed to it, but the fact that potentially it's creating an R2 island, I just don't know where that fits in the scheme of the type of development we want in that area. Or do we just take a look at it holistically and say, hey, maybe this is R2 type of development
Right.
here? And again, I would probably lean more towards staff, but I'm just kind of thinking down the road. Again, I'm not opposed to it. I welcome the development and the construction and want to follow the recommendation of our planning commission. But I think our mayor does bring up kind of an excellent point as far as, kind of what we're doing in that area.
You know, the project applicant, does that person own the entire lot there? Or just the project area?
Just the project site.
Okay. And what is his timeline or her timeline as far as actually construction?
That I'm not aware that he has a timeline because he has to finalize the parcel map, and then there's going to be 3 parcels within that project site. So he could either do, right now, I think his plans are to build duplexes, but he could also do single-family homes, construct single-family homes. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, he's here. I didn't see him, but maybe
We'll
he
get you in a
can
minute.
answer.
Well, if he's going to do single-family homes, then why wouldn't we just continue it as an R1? I guess I'm a little, I like Councilmember Cardis. I'm not totally opposed,
Right,
but I'm not sure that I see, when we're sitting here trying to plan how our city's going to look, and I see a map full of R1, and I see this little spot that's going to be R2, and let's say that the applicant develops that into duplexes, but the rest of all these parcels continue as an R1, and maybe there's some infill projects for residential. Do we look back 10 years from now and say, how did that happen?
Yeah, I see.
And that's kind of where, and I know we have that throughout the city because we see it. We drive around and we see something and we go, how'd that happen? And I'm just, that's my only question about, potentially having another one of those, how did that happen 10 years from now?
Norma, let's just assume for right now that this goes through and housing is built, whether that's single family or whether that's duplex type. Are they going to require to improve 12th Street
Yes.
and sidewalk, curb, all of that stuff would be
That would be
required?
required, yes.
Paving of the street, because that's the street on the
Off of
east
12.
side is dirt, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For the entire length of that, and then they would,
No, the policy, the city's policy is just the adjacent to the property line. The church, when the CUP was approved across the way, the requirement placed on that project was to pave half of 12th Street. So this project will be required to pay the other half along the project, his boundary.
and therein lies the other issues. We already have a CUP for a church, in essence, across the street. So that parcel is going to be taken out of play for any kind of development in residential
On the east side, yes.
on the east side of 12th Street.
Of 12th Street.
Let me see, we'll come back to questions. Do you have any initial questions, Ms. Sanders, right now?
But I would like to hear from the applicant, and maybe that some of the questions that are being posed at this time could be answered.
Thank you for
Since
that.
the applicant is in the
Yes.
audience.
Let me go ahead and open the public hearing for items 14, 15, and 16 as described by staff. Any member of the public that wishes to provide testimony to the council? Would the applicant come forward?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
I'm a little bit nervous to be up
Don't be
here.
nervous, bro, you're among friends.
Yeah.
Don't get nervous, they're just all staring at you right now.
So you heard some of the initial concerns that we have, and I don't know if you understand the issues what we're talking about, but one of the concerns that I have that I also share with Councilmember Jackson is to have the fact that we would have one lot surrounded by single-family lots, and that kind of creates, an island. What plans do you have for the property? Maybe I should ask you that question.
Well, the reason I'm dividing the lot, one parcel to three parcels is to move in with my parents, down in the future, do duplexes. And my goal since I was a little kid to have my family around me. And, so when we bought the lot 7 years ago, that was the plan, to divide it and have our house neighbors pretty much. I'm aware of north of the lot, they're building like, I don't know, so many apartment complexes or apartments, like, I don't know how many units they're building, but it's
Yeah.
right behind Target.
Right.
So, I mean,
That's a different zoning area, though. Go ahead.
So if, let's just say hypothetically, because we don't know, but hypothetically, if the council did not approve the rezoning to R2 and that would remain on R1, you can still, how many single-family homes could you get there normally, you know? Three also? So the lot size, the number of lots would remain the same, you'd just be able to put more units or second unit. Okay. What would that do to your plans?
at this point, I mean, it's a question that, but what I was trying to do is a duplex, obviously combine in two houses in one. Obviously, that duplex, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the homes in Imperial over there by Neco Road, those duplexes that they're together.
They share a common wall.
So like cottage homes, I don't know what they're called or the name, but that was my plan to do. And I mean, obviously, it's gonna be one parcel. It's not like I can sell one house. Or I can sell one of the duplexes is one parcel, two houses in one parcel pretty much. I mean, that was, I'm not,
I think Mr. Councilmember Jackson also said, or he had a question about timeline. Do you know kind of when you anticipate the development to start?
I was hoping to start sometime this coming year, March, around March.
A question, if hypothetically, if we were to say we want to maintain this as an R1, and you still go through the parcel map and you still do your subdivide and you've got your three parcels, would it be, and I understand that in essence you want to have like a family compound right there, you want to have all your family together, but could you not build three single-family homes that would work for that?
I probably can, but everything's so expensive. They're asking me a lot of requirements for like the streets, and there's a lot of fees. I'm not gonna lie. Eventually, I was gonna maybe rent one unit and live in the other one. I mean, that was the only way I was able to come up with all the money and refinance and be able to pay off all the loans. I mean, that's why I was trying to do multiple units so I can live in one and rent the other one. Same with my parents, which is he's right here. So.
Ms. Vigaña, at the planning commission meeting, were there any surrounding neighbors that opposed this?
Nobody was present.
Nobody was present?
And as far as the requirement, I'm sorry, I was able to meet all the requirements, the square feet lot, everything was able to meet. I was able to meet all requirements that you guys were asking. So I mean,
What about in regards to the commissioners, Villacaña, was there any general discussion about R2 Island or anything related to that you may remember? Is there, I mean, I actually, they're a pretty savvy group of
Yeah.
folks.
No, I think the planning commission just brought up the issue about the improvements off of 12th Street. There was some discussion about that, but nothing about creating an island or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Any additional questions, comments?
If I may, Mayor, I do like the fact that staff made it conditional, according to the site plan approval. So if for some reason we did not approve the site plan, then that would revert back to R1?
Oh, you're
No.
talking about the church.
No,
No, if you approve the project tonight, then the applicant can come in and with building plans and request a site plan review. Basically, a site plan review would be completed administratively by staff, so it does not go back to council, the site plan review.
So if he comes back and we don't approve the site plan, still remains R2.
R1.
Or, excuse me,
Well, not the site, but we don't
We don't do that. That's
we don't review the site plan, it's,
administrative.
yeah.
That's
The
administrative.
zoning is that what we have jurisdiction over.
What you have before you tonight. The site plan is completed administratively by staff.
okay.
Well, I do share the concerns that Mr. Jackson raised as far as creating an island. I'm gonna support the action only because all you have around you are basically empty lots, and I know that there's a church coming. I think that the future for that entire neighborhood should be R2 or even multifamily. We're in desperate need for apartments and multifamily housing. You know, personally, I think that if somebody wanted to build a single-family home, you know, there will be other options that they will be considering. So I see as a future for that area, R2s or even R3s. If there were homes immediately around it, I would not support this, but there's not. And also, if there were property owners around it in opposition, I would not support the action. But given the dynamics that I just described, I'm ready to support the action. But let me hear from council.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, if I may. It's my understanding, Mrs. Villacaña, that an R2 would allow, an R2 zoning would allow single-family to go into that zone as well, or, yes?
Yes, no,
So even if this R2 parcel that's designated by the particular applicant, single-family homes could go in the remaining portion of that little strip. Is that correct?
Within,
Well, there's only 3 parcels.
within
but yeah.
yes.
So this individual seems to suggest that he'd like to build some attached housing, not necessarily single-family, but attached housing, utilizing some for his personal use and then some perhaps for use as a renter to help defray some of the cost of his particular, for his particular needs. So I think, Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, changing this at this point to an R2 would not preclude an R1 from going in there. So that would still,
Yeah, but we know that the plans are to build duplexes.
for this gentleman.
Yes.
But but that would not preclude something else from coming in. So I think that this would somehow not necessarily be contrary to what our desire is to move forward with this type of a development.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Jackson?
Maybe a question for the applicant, just, and you can just nod your head, you don't have to come up, is you referred to the duplexes in Imperial over on Neckel Road, and my recollection of those duplexes are their design is one that tends to illustrate a single-family home. They're not the typical duplex, you know, kind of squared out, things like that. Is that the kind of duplex that you're looking to construct? Okay.
Yeah. But can I point out that he can change his mind tomorrow?
True, absolutely. And I'm just, I'll go ahead and support it. I would hope that you would stick by that and construct something that, and my only concern is moving forward is if the rest of the area develops into an R1, which is single-family homes, I would hope that your properties don't stick out, not for lack of a better way of saying it, like a sore thumb, as far as something box-like as a duplex surrounded by a bunch of residential homes. I'm familiar with the area over there in Neckel Road, and those are consistent with kind of an R1 design. And for that purposes, I will go ahead and support this.
Okay, so any further questions from the council? If not, I'm ready for a motion on item number 14, which is the negative declaration. I won't read the entire description, but it's a negative declaration as it relates to this project. I have a motion by Sanders and a second by Cardenas, and motion passes 4-0. That was Resolution 15-109. I'm looking for a motion on Resolution 15-110 that relates to the change of zone, as has been described by staff. And I have a motion by Sanders and second by Cardenas. Please ballot. That passes 4-0. I'm looking for a motion on ordinance number 15-17 as it relates to the change of zone. And I have a motion by Sanders and second by Cardenas. And motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Today's a Miss Villacaña show.
We're almost there.
Let's go ahead and open items 17, 18, and 19.
Thank you. Okay. The third project that we have before you is the request to rezone approximately 2.5 acres this is another parcel that has one parcel with two different zones. Of CO, the 2.5 acres consist of office commercial and tourist commercial. So the request is to rezone the entire 2.5 acres into CN. The rezone will require a general plan amendment because the southern 0.6 acres are zoned tourist commercial. So, and the purpose of this rezoning request is to develop a pharmacy. Under CEQA, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project. And just to give you an idea, if you see at the location map, you see that the north, a little bit more than half of the southern parcel is CT, and the other half is CO, and it's all within one parcel. Again, the project location is located at the southeast corner of Imperial Avenue and Aurora Drive, and the current use is medical offices. However, the property is vacant now. To the north, you have Aurora Drive and offices. To the east, you have single-family residences. To the south, you have restaurants, KFC, different offices, and then also Ocotillo Drive. And then, of course, to the west, you have Imperial Avenue. Again, the existing zoning will take it from CO and CT to just CN, the proposed. They would clean up the zoning. Under the land use, again, it would change everything to general commercial. This is just a preliminary site plan that was submitted by by CVS Pharmacies, and they're proposing over 13,000 square foot building. It's going to have a drive-through lane. It's going to have adequate parking space and other amenities. Some of the building elevations. Now, as it relates to environmental review, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared. There were certain impacts that we analyzed. One of them was aesthetics. Basically, the mitigation under the project will require that light sources, particular within the parking lot, do not impact the surrounding area, especially to the east, residential uses. Also under aesthetics, there's a mitigation condition that there must be a cart retention system in order to prevent removal of shopping carts and having them all over the premise. And for air quality, of course, the project must comply with all applicable Imperial County Air Pollution Control District measures. And under hazards and hazardous materials, the current building will be demolished, so it would require a demolition permit, and all the hazardous building materials shall be abated and removed appropriately. Now, as it relates to traffic, a traffic analysis was conducted, and the conclusion was that traffic impacts will be less than significant.
Really? I find,
That's so busy there anyways.
yeah, well, I just find that, I'll allow you to complete your
Okay.
statement. I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. Mayor.
And what was analyzed under the, if I may, under the traffic analysis was that there's going to be 3 separate entrances to the site, one of Ocotillo, Imperial, and Aurora. And the use that was there before, I guess was
Just had one.
was more than what's
Okay.
being proposed. And then in noise studies, of course, noise study, there were no significant impacts. Now, the site plan review that was completed and conducted by staff does require that during construction time, there are some restrictions as it relates to noise for construction. Again, the no negative comments were received during the mitigated negative declaration public review period. The project was presented to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission is recommending approval. And again, we are requesting that the public hearing be open and that 3 action items be approved.
Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. During the Planning Commission hearing, was there any surrounding property owners that opposed this project?
No, none.
Yeah, because we almost have the same scenario in that we're going to have a CN island, because all the way around it is tourist commercial like that.
No. Let's look at it again.
Yeah, if you see the uses to the north are CG, well, let me go back
Oh, yes, okay, yeah, across the street.
one. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but on the same side of the street.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And if you recall, our CT use is very limited,
Yeah.
so that's why,
I think, I kind of the same thing, I see general commercial to be a more viable zoning for not just this property,
Yes.
but I think all along Imperial Avenue, it's probably a more viable zoning, so I don't have a problem with that. Initial questions from the council, Mr. Cardenas?
Ms. Villacaña, any concerns regarding parking, or I didn't see any parking variance or anything related to that, but just any general concerns
No.
about parking? I know the traffic seemed to be okay, but any concerns regarding traffic?
actually, they
or
have
parking?
more than the required parking. They're proposing 95 spaces, and so that's more than what's required. So no, there are no concerns about parking.
So I guess customers would enter into their parking lot using which,
Well, there's going to be 3 options. If you can enter through Ocotillo if you're going to go through the drive-through, or you can enter through Aurora or Imperial Avenue. So the existing Imperial Avenue entrance will remain the same. That's not going to change, basically.
yeah, I know that intersection, that Imperial and Aurora, if you're trying to make a left and head south on Imperial's, can be a little tricky sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, just wondering why.
The entrance to Aurora would be more to the east, so it's not so close to Imperial Avenue. It's more closer to
The KFC.
the KFC. I'm sorry, yeah, the KFC. I'm turned around.
Yeah, regardless, I'm supportive of this, Mayor, and I'm actually really glad to hear that CVS is moving into town, and they're a very large organization, and it's good work on the part of
Likewise.
staff.
Mr. Jackson, any questions?
Yeah, Norma, without, I'm trying to look at the plans here. I see a 10-foot setback from the residential area to the project site.
Oh, yes.
And I see a 6-foot screen wall adjacent. My question is there going to be, and thinking of the residents in that area as far as the lighting and potential noise of people coming through, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a 24-hour CVS, but I know a lot of CVSs are 24 hours. My question is during the hearing at the Planning Commission, was there a discussion about say a cinder block wall, something of height more than a 6-foot?
If I may show you, we have some photographs in. Oh, I thought we did. I'm sorry, we don't. The existing block wall that it's adjoining the residence will be replaced, because right now the block wall, I think, is 4 or 5 feet. So what the residents have done, they placed some kind of wood to make it taller.
Yeah, I've seen
so
it.
it's going to be replaced, completely replaced with a block wall, and it's going to be, I believe, it's 7 foot. We feel that should be more than adequate to set. And then there's going to be a 10-foot buffer.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yes.
That was my only concern, is I'm very supportive of this. I think, not only changes the dynamic of that area, obviously increases sales tax revenue to the city, permit fees for construction. I mean, I'm excited about it. My only concern is the residents that live on the, what would be the east side of that, having some kind of a buffer. I like the 10-foot setback, but, and I like the cinder block wall.
And I saw that they totally let go of the landscaping, so it's really
Yeah,
becoming an
yeah,
eyesore
it is.
in a major thoroughfare in the
I
city.
didn't realize it was totally
I mean,
vacant.
I thought it was
already.
just the drought
Yeah,
conditions.
I did too. So I didn't say
Ms.
anything.
Sanders, do you have any initial questions, Ms. Sanders?
I just, Mr. Mayor, I was concerned about the traffic, but you said traffic has a negative depth, and that's a pretty congested area. And it surprised me that it would have a negative depth.
If I may, is that we count what's already there, and that office building was full. Dr. Kelly was the last one to leave, and so when we count the actual traffic it's always had, this is actually less traffic
Right.
that CVS will produce.
Yes.
I would think it would be the reverse. I would think well, I mean, I didn't think it would be less. I thought it would be as much as or more.
It's actually less.
It's
Because-
actually less.
It's a smaller footprint, and you're not having all these activities, all the doctor's offices that were in there, they're all gone.
It's going to be more sporadic than having an 825 or,
Let me state this. What I'm using as a yardstick for measuring my issue as it relates to traffic is Imperial Avenue with Rite Aid and Walgreens and that drive-through and the congestion around there, how you get in and out. And I see this with KFC and similar. Now, maybe I'm overreacting to that, and it's not the same.
and that's at the beginning of the project, we thought it was going to be like that, but when the traffic analysis was completed and the uses were compared, it came out that it had
You have KFC, and across the street is some kind of a service station, and there's Denny's and the Radisson Hotel. So I'm just thinking, it just seems to me, looking at it with a very, as a blank canvas, and comparing it to what's happening on Imperial Avenue with the two major pharmacies there, I think it would be similar. But if this is what your
That's-
analysis turned up, then thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, Norma, one other question is on the 2 stormwater basins. What's the enclosure? Is that going to be chain link with privacy screen, the slats, or is that block wall, or is it going to be open? What's the construction material used to enclose the 2 stormwater basins?
Yeah, that's the question I had too.
I don't have an answer for that, because that was a condition under engineering, and I'm not sure if, I can get back to you. I don't know what the answer would be.
I think that's a really important question, because we don't want this to look like
Yeah.
one of dried up retention basins that we see in town, around town in such a critical area in the city. Is there anybody here from CBS that can maybe ask? Okay.
There we go.
Okay, let me go ahead and, let me open the public hearing in a minute. Any initial questions from the council? Okay, let me go ahead and open the public hearing for items 17, 18, and 19 as described by staff. Sir?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm with Bose Development. We're the developer for CVS. So, with regards to your question, there's no chain link fencing around it. It's all landscaping. So it's basically just a landscape basin with surrounding hedges.
So it's open air, it's open air?
Yeah.
We haven't had much success with open retention basins, as if you can, when you get on the freeway from Fourth, and you look to your right by Home Depot, that's pretty ugly eyesore, and that was initially intended to be a landscape retention basin. So what specific landscaping plans do you have? Can you share that with us today?
Well, the landscaping plan's not finalized yet. Well, actually, it should be finalized. It's in the city right now.
How deep is the retention basin, do you know?
I think it's a couple feet. Is the plan? Yeah, I think it's a couple of feet. It's about 2 to 3 feet deep.
If you want, Mayor, we don't allow them to go deep like the ones across on the south side of the freeway. We don't allow that because we know nothing will grow. So it's limited to a very shallow part, and we're not requiring grass on the bottom anymore because of the drought conditions. It's all very similar to what we did out at
Direct auto?
Commons, I mean, not the Commons, the Plaza, where it's gonna have hardscape, rock, and with some landscaping on the edges. So, because we know that, well, nothing goes in the bottom, but also, we can't put turf in the bottom anymore by order, so that's all been adjusted. But the ones you're talking about, those are 6 and 8 feet deep, which we don't allow anymore.
Yeah, it's not that. It's only a couple feet deep. Again, it's more planting surrounding it. It's not so much planting at the base of the basin.
You did mention a hedge, though, right? Or did
Yeah.
I hear that there would be a hedge around it or something?
Yeah,
to that
along Aurora, I think there was a hedge line all the way along Aurora. I'd have to reference back to the landscape plan, but there was a lot of detail with regards to landscaping taken into consideration.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, my hesitation with that is that you've got a great project. It's going to really change the area. I think it's going to bring it up considerably. I agree with the mayor. We have some retention basins that aren't maintained, and we have these crazy, once a year rains. It's going to, fill up, and then every weed that you can imagine is going to grow there,
Sure.
and it's going to collect trash. It's going to, and that's what I'm afraid of. We have a retention basin, and in fact, I didn't even know that we had this retention basin. This is how great this retention basin is. But it was pointed out by staff over by Southwest High School. And they said that it's the best retention basin we have. Why? Because we don't know it's there. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is that, and I don't know what the added cost, and maybe there's a trade-off with the amount of landscaping that you're talking about going in with because if you're going to put landscaping in, you're probably talking about irrigation also. But I'm just wondering if even the chain link with the privacy slats, something that's just going to kind of close that area off with, a manned gate if you need to get in there to clean out or anything like that. Something like that, is that something that could still be considered?
Typically with the design of CVS and having kind of a fence around it, they're trying to, we try to stay away from that. We try to use more of a landscape hedge to enclose an area if that was the case. If you did have to go to a chain link fence, I'd recommend some sort of hedge around it. But again, it's all, typically, again, CVS tries to stay with more of the landscaping, tries to be more of a softer feel as opposed to just having fencing around it.
Norma, is the areas for landscaping, the retention basin areas, that's not part of the landscaping requirement, that's outside the landscaping requirement?
Actually, the landscaping plan has to be reviewed by staff, and I don't think we've received a complete set of plan. If the council wishes, we can take that into consideration when we review the landscaping plan.
And I forgot what the percentage is, but a certain percentage of the,
15%.
so you don't know whether they're planning to incorporate these retention basins as part of that 15%?
No, I don't, because
Because I don't think it should.
what happened is the site plan application was submitted, and that was reviewed by staff. I don't think we have reviewed the landscaping plans, have
Yeah.
we?
I don't think so. I think they were submitted with civil plans, but.
I thought retention bases didn't count towards.
Yeah, I hope it does.
No,
the
they
15%.
don't count.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, if it's a rock basin, that wouldn't be, I wouldn't consider that as part of landscaping, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
And we can make sure that when we review those landscaping plans, that's not counted against the landscaping requirement.
Yeah.
I concur with Mr. Jackson, that there's got to be some way to mitigate, because, when things get built and everything looks good, and the sprinklers work, and everything grows and looks good at the beginning, and then, 3, 4, or 5 years from now, people will get to get a little relaxed on the maintenance, and all of a sudden we have some of the eyesores that we have around the city. So I'd like to see a more permanent mitigation of the aesthetics around the retention basins, and I don't know, Norma, if you have some ideas.
Yeah, if we could, if the council wishes to, we can go back to staff and maybe try and incorporate, I don't know, some of the detention basin. I know that engineering staff is very familiar with that. We can work with that. We can also ensure that when we review the final landscaping plans, and keep in mind that we're not permitting sprinklers anymore, so everything has to be in drip system. So
But
whatever.
El Niño's coming, and the drug's going to go away.
Droughts can be over in a few months, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly, we don't need drip anymore.
We can review, we haven't finalized the landscaping, but we can take all your recommendations into.
Because yes, thank you for that, because if we approve all these actions today, then the site plan becomes, we don't have any control over the site plan. So if we kind of put you on notice that this is what we would
Yes.
like to see, that would be, that can be adhered
Yeah,
to.
we can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we can work together.
Also, one last question. What's your timeline as far as, I know you have to pull
Well, basically, we're
demolition?
looking at getting permits. We just submitted our building documents today. So really, construction, we're beginning construction by February, March.
Demolition will take how long?
Demo will probably take a month. You know, to bait and demo.
I'm excited for the project, and I think, we just all have a concern that we want your project to look great forever, and,
Absolutely. I mean, CVS is purchasing this property, so and typically they'll do a ground lease for 50 years, or depending what the term is, but CVS is actually purchasing this property, so there's a little more involvement that goes into it with landscaping and design and thgoing like that, so.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close. Do you have a comment?
No.
I'm going to close the public hearing. Bring it back to council. Any additional questions? Norma, do we need to incorporate the issues on the landscaping as part of the motion, or how do we do this?
That's not a condition, is it?
No, there's no conditions. However, we can certainly take your recommendations and when we review the landscaping plan.
Okay, very well. Ms. Becker, it looked like you were going to say something. No?
I was just going to say that since there's no conditions to modify, we don't.
Yeah. No conditions.
All right, any additional questions from the council? If not, I'm looking for a motion on Resolution 15-101 related to the mitigated negative deck of the project as proposed. I have a motion by Jackson, second by Cardenas, and item passes 4-0. We have, I need a motion on Resolution 15-112 related to the general plan amendment of the action as recommended. I have a motion by Cardenas and a second by Jackson, and item passes 4-0. I'm looking for motion for ordinance number 15-18 related to the change of zone as recommended. I have a motion by Jackson and a second by Sanders. Please ballot. I need Nobody
Oh,
missing?
sorry. It's my fault.
Item passes 4-0. Thank you for that. Okay, one more. Let's go ahead and open items number 20, 21, and 22.
Thank you. Our last project before you is a change of zone and general plan amendment for 396 South Imperial. Again, the subject parcel is presently Zone R1. The applicant is requesting to change the zone from R1 to CG, General Commercial. With that, we are proposing a general plan amendment. The purpose of the rezoning is to operate a beauty salon. Applicant has been making and will be making more improvements to the property, including the parking, replacing fencing, driveways, and so forth. Again, the property is about 10,100 square feet. The site currently consists of a single-family dwelling that faces Imperial Avenue. And as you can tell from the project location map, just north of the project site, you have the Ivy Plaza Shopping Center. To the south, east, and west, you have single-family residential uses.
You know, if I can we get that on our screen? I don't know.
My eyesight's
Back to
going.
go back to the map.
Yeah.
There.
Okay, there it is. Okay. Thank you.
Again, current zoning R1 proposed is CG, and land use designation is low-density residential, and the proposed land use would be general commercial. This is the existing and the proposed zoning map. Again, as you can see, the property is facing Imperial Avenue, so staff had no concerns about providing this request. It would be compatible to the uses to the north. And under the land use, it would be changing from low-density residential to general commercial. And this is just a draft site plan. The applicant will be required to submit a site plan review application, and some of the issues that will be considered are basically the parking, the traffic flow. Obviously, the entrance to the site would be off of Brighton Avenue, and that existing driveway will have to be replaced to a commercial standard driveway. There's more than enough area for the parking that's going to be required. And so all these improvements will be determined when the applicant submits the site plan review application. This is just a view of the driveway along Brighton Avenue, the one that will be converted into a commercial driveway, and then along Imperial Avenue. If you've driven by there lately, you've noticed that the applicant has planted some trees along Imperial Avenue, so the property looks a little bit, aesthetically pleasing. It's my understanding also that the applicant will provide more landscaping and so forth, and that's going to be submitted with the site plan review application. So in this regards, a negative declaration was prepared. The change of zone would allow land uses such as beauty salons, banks, fast food, and so forth. However, due to the size of the parcel, some of these uses will probably not be feasible, and we took that into account.
Uses such as?
Like a drive-through. I don't think a drive-through would, because of the spacing, and there are limitations because of the size of the parcel. So even though a drive-through restaurant would be allowed under the CG, it would not be feasible.
So Norma, is the plans to convert the existing house into the beauty salon? Is there
yes.
any remodeling that is being proposed?
Yes, the applicant has already done some remodeling inside.
How about the exterior?
And the exterior,
Yeah, the entire exterior's been done.
If you
Oh, it's
see,
been
the
painted.
exterior, the windows are commercial windows, and there's some remodeling that's, and the applicant is here to answer any questions.
And so vehicles are gonna go, can you go back to the site plan for me? So vehicles are expected to come in off of
Brighton.
Brighton, right? And they're gonna exit onto Imperial,
And there's going to be just a right turn only.
but there's no medium in front of
There's no
the,
medium.
in front of the house, right? So people could potentially
Turn the other way.
go the other way, even though,
Yeah. However, the type of, I mean, it's right now, what's being proposed, there's no nexus to require a medium because of the limited clientele or,
and also on the existing building, which was formerly a house, correct?
Yes.
Is there any pedestrian exits off of the rear?
I don't know if they have them right now, but it's going to be required again under the site plan because the building, the new commercial building has to be ADA compliant. So under the site plan review, we're going to ensure that there's an adequate pathway to the front, to the entrance, and also through the parking. So all that is going to be reviewed with the site plan review.
Related to the 6-foot high wall, in the past, we've asked you, Norma, if there's some kind of finishing or some kind of texture that keeps graffiti from walls. Have you found anything that I'm a little concerned about graffiti? This is kind of an open invitation for people to get tagged. What have we done in terms of able to mitigate that?
I know that there's been other projects that we require that. One of them was the El Centro Regional Medical Facility. And it's a coating, I understand it's a coating that it's easier to clean, basically. It's something that we could require with this project, obviously.
Okay. Thank you, Norma. Questions from the council before I open the public hearing?
No questions, Mr. Mayor.
Jackson?
You know, just, I know that their address is on South Imperial, and the only concern I would have is, if the property owner across the street wanted to do the very same thing and open up a beauty salon, what are we gonna tell them? You know, they face Imperial, are we gonna extend that same option to them?
Actually, I did get a call from not that particular property owner, but basically, it would be easier to recommend approval if the property is facing Imperial.
Okay.
A lot of those properties, even though they're at the corner, I think the property at the corner of Imperial and Brighton on the east side
Right.
is actually, the front of the property is facing Brighton. So unless they turn around, they're, it just,
Isn't that the property that's been having yard sales for years and years and years?
I think that's the next one down.
Have a yard sale every weekend.
so those are the things that we would look at if there was another request. Obviously, we would, look at it, review it, and,
Thank you, Norma. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on items number 20, 21, and 22. Any member of the public that wishes to provide testimony on this matter, please, sir?
Good evening. My name is Joe Rambula, a lifelong resident of El Centro. A couple of you guys know me. I am in support of this proposal. I do have a property that's down south, and she was probably referring to my phone call, because I've been keeping an eye out on rezoning in that area and on Imperial Avenue. I was going to speak on behalf of, in support of our CVS representative, but I thought I'd just save it for this one. And I am in support of the CVS pharmacy moving in. That would be great. Imperial Avenue is our corridor. It is the most important corridor in El Centro right now, whether we know it or not. Every successful city, town, in San Diego or anywhere around here has a corridor. They have a main street and they have an additional corridor that brings in the traffic. It's where all the restaurants are, that's where all the CVS pharmacies are at, where all the Starbucks are at, where all the businesses are at. And they come because that's where they eat, where they shop. And Imperial Avenue is that corridor. So we need to support this. We need to support development on Imperial Avenue. We need to do it safely. We need to do it taking all the consideration to the surrounding residential area. But at the same time, we can't hold back Imperial Avenue from the commercialization and because it's important to the success of El Centro. Hopefully, before I'm long and gone, I could see that. I could see a lot of great things happening in Imperial Avenue. And I'll probably be back. You'll probably see me, and sometime in the future, probably wanting to, propose a rezoning on my property. My property is south of that, right, and it does face Imperial Avenue. So, with that being said, I won't ramble on. I am just in support of this, and there's a lot of other people that support this as well. Just a lot of people don't get out and actually come to these meetings, but I do.
Thank you, Mr. Angula.
One other thing I want to mention, a lot of the traffic from Mexicali, a lot of our friends from Mexicali that really contribute to the economy, especially our mall, they like to come to El Centro and they like to come through Imperial Avenue. I know because when I go out and do maintenance on my property, I see the license plates. Yeah. And I see a lot of those people traveling back and forth. They like coming to our Costco, even though they have one over there, and they frequent Imperial Avenue and they like coming to our Starbucks. So you guys really need to consider supporting proposals like this. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments from the council? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. I am in support. I agree with Mayor Arambula. I think general commercial zoning, it makes sense along Imperial Avenue, and I think that's the trend that we'll begin to see. I would like to see, however, Ms. Villacaña, to have a condition on the wall with the texture that minimizes graffiti. I think that's important. So, any questions from the council?
I have no questions, Mr.
I would
Mayor.
just, Mr. Mayor, I just encourage that we just be consistent, and I know that if we're going to do it for them, then we definitely need to be consistent with all those folks along that area.
Absolutely. If not, any additional I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to council, and I'm looking for
But
a motion.
Mr. Mayor, if
I'm
I
sorry.
may, in light of the fact that we're going to be consistent with changing of zone along Imperial Avenue, we also recognize there's a lot of residential properties along Imperial Avenue as well. So it depends on what side of Imperial Avenue we're talking about. We have the school site, two school sites on Imperial Avenue. One is Wilson and the other is Central High. So as we're talking about changing this, just I would say be sensitive to those property owners that are on the other side of the street.
I'm looking for a motion on resolution number 15-113 related to the the negative declaration for the project. I have a motion by Jackson and second by Cardenas, and the item passes 4-0. I'm looking for a motion on resolution 15-114 related to the general plan amendment for the project. I have a motion by Jackson and second by Sanders, and item passes 4-0. I'm looking for a motion of ordinance number 15-19 related to the change of zone for the project. I have a motion by Jackson, second by Cardenas, and item passes 4-0. Thank you, Norma. You must be exhausted. Thank you,
Take the
Norma.
rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to item number 23, discussion on establishing priorities for the CDBG entitlement program for the 16-17 funding cycle. Presentation by Ms. Piedra.
Yes, good evening, honorable mayor, members of the council. This is actually an item that we, as staff, have a discussion with you prior to us starting our request for proposal process for the Community Development Block Grant Program. We are getting ready to start our programming, our development of our annual action plan to be submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as is required for the city for the program year starting in July 1st of 2016. We're already planning for that. In preparation for this plan, we have been HUD recommends that we use the existing allocation that we receive, which right now for the city, we received $501,991, and we estimate that we're going to have approximately $50,000 in program income. As you know, in the past, and it's actually included in your report, we fund different types of activities that range from housing activities, public services, public facility and infrastructure improvements, code enforcement programs, and also planning and administration funds for staff to operate the program on a yearly basis. The basic requirement, obviously, that we have whenever we fund any kind of program or activity with CDBG funds is that we have to meet at least one of the 3 national objectives set by the federal government, in this case HUD. And those objectives are that we benefit at least 51% of low and moderate income persons, that we aid in the prevention or elimination of slum or blight, and that we meet any community development need in terms of any particular urgency that we may have. And of course, eligible activities, as I pointed out, can be described as housing activities, public facilities, public services, and economic development. And of course, they have to be offered and benefit within the city of El Centro limits. Part of this funding also, as you know, we are required to provide fair housing services to our community, so that's a required activity that, of course, we fund every year. As included in your report, for historical purposes, we provided what we have funded in the past in terms of housing activities, public services, of course, including the agencies that assist us in the delivery of public services and what their allocation has been since the program year 2013. Also included as part of your report, and we try to summarize for you and try to break down what the maximum cap is per activity. Obviously, and as you have seen over the years, that the maximum requests come in the form of public services, and that's where we have our most minimal amount of money allocated. And of course, that's said by regulation that we cannot exceed more than 15% on public services. And also we have the 20% cap of funds that we have for grant administration. So we always operate within those requirements by HUD. Therefore, at this time, what staff is looking for from council is, discussion as to what types of program services you would like to see the community consider as part of the development of the annual action plan for the program year 2016-17, which will start December the 2nd. That's when we plan to release the request for proposal. And that will be, the proposals will be due to the city on January the 4th of 2016. And then, as you know, the process is that we get those proposals and then we come in and present to you all the proposals that have been received in preparation for us to come back with you to present a draft annual action plan.
Thank you, Marcela. Refresh my memory. So if the expected allocation is $500,000, $500,000, you say 30% of that can be used for public service?
No, 15%.
15%. So 15% of
500,000 is
like
about 75,000 to about 75,000.
And does this not include housing activities and all that kind of stuff? That's strictly. And last year we allocated 80,000.
That's correct.
So you're going to make our job even more difficult this time.
Every year it gets more difficult. And I think we ask this question every year, but I'll ask it again. We are locked into the 45,000 for fair housing.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I have a number of people that would like to speak to the council regarding this matter. So let's hear from them first, and then I'll bring it back to council. Yeredia Soto, please.
Hi, good evening, Mayor council members. My name is Yari Soto. I'm the Director for Administrative Services for Women Haven. And I'm here today just to tell you about how the CDBG funds help us provide services and what accomplishments we've had. So the CDBG funding allows us to continue providing emergency shelter and transitional housing services to victims of domestic violence, as well as persons homeless for other reasons. It helps us with operating expenses, including facility, food, personal care, mental health, educational services, and emergency transportation. With the help of last year's funding under our CDBG shelter grant, we were able to assist a total of 185 persons. And under our transitional shelter grant, we assisted 62 persons. But we do want you to know that our efforts don't stop at only emergency and transitional shelter. Once in shelter, our main goal is to get them into permanent housing. So they work with the case managers, they empower them to look for jobs, to obtain mainstream resources. And last year we were able to assist women coming through our emergency shelter with rapid rehousing thanks to a grant under the Emergency Solutions Program. A total of 95 persons were assisted, and rapid rehousing helps us move clients into permanent housing, providing them with 3 to 6 months of rental assistance. During that time, we help them look for jobs and we provide educational classes. A new component that we hope to receive funding in the next year is to pay for childcare expenses. Although we refer clients to apply for the low-income childcare, there's always a long waiting list. And so we found that it's been a barrier for them to obtain jobs because they don't have childcare. So, we've applied for the funding, and it would help at least for the first, while they get their first paycheck, and we're able to continue from there. So if we didn't have CDBG funds, we would have to dilute our services. We wouldn't be able to provide transportation, economic empowerment, case management, personal care supplies, or operating expenses for our shelters. So next year, we are going to be harshly impacted with the reduction of ESG grants. They will not be funding homeless prevention grants, and the rapid rehousing will be reduced by $50,000. Over 150 clients and their children will be impacted by this cut. In addition, the funding will not be released until September, leaving a 3-month gap in service, which will cause residents to be homeless for longer periods while on our waiting list. In addition, we did receive notice that the VAWA funds are, they might eliminate that as well. So we're kind of not looking forward to that either. Grants help us sustain the supportive services we offer and make them continuous. Being a nonprofit, our funding is never guaranteed, but we've been able to get by through the help of grants such as CDBG. And we just want to thank you for supporting our programs, and we hope that you'll be able to assist us in the future funding cycle to help us with the financial impact that the other grants will have.
Thank you, Ms. Soto.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Moser.
Mr. Mayor and Madam Member of the Council and two gentlemen, I've been here every year that the CDBG has been available to the city of El Centro. One year was on Halloween. So it's always a pleasure to be here. Each year, the message is basically the same. The needs of low-income, vulnerable residents of El Centro are real, they're significant, and they unfortunately increase. In the past decade, Catholic Charities has served well over 1 million meals to seniors 60 years of age or over. As proud as we are of that accomplishment and that level of service, we are equally concerned about the meals we are unable to serve because funding from the state, unfortunately, decreases every year. For the first time in program history, the waiting lists for home-delivered meals, and that's all that we always ask of this council is to support that particular program. That waiting list is now longer than the list of those we're able to serve. We currently serve 130 seniors, but have 141 on the waiting list. We are unable to add any new recipient until an existing senior leaves the program. So far this year, the good news and the bad news is the same. We have no openings. CDBG funding is and has always been a crucial component of our overall resources that enable us to serve the maximum number of homebound seniors. Without this support, without your support, we would need to reduce the number rather than expand it. All this being said, on behalf of Catholic Charities, I respectfully extend our deepest gratitude for your continued support for seniors and especially for the hungry. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Lupe Rodriguez. Lupita.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilman. My name is Lupe Rodriguez. I'm the Program Manager for House of Hope Catholic Charities, and thank you for having me here tonight. I would like to talk a little bit about the importance of CDBG funding for the shelter and the homeless women and children it helps. You know, we have served 45 El Centro homeless women and from January till now, and we've assisted them by having them in our shelter and then placing them in suitable housing. Many of these families don't have their means of support. They have been evicted or living a dangerous family life. Many of these families do not have the support of family or friends. And our shelter becomes their safe refuge and their home. So CDBG monies are very, very important to us. We see many families from different backgrounds and unique problems, but they all share the same goal, is to find housing, employment, and a better quality of life. Without our help, your help, many of these women would be sleeping in parks or wherever they can find a place for the night. In total, from January till November of this year, we have served 107 people. We've assisted 76 with finding housing, and many of these 107 that were sheltered came from different parts of Imperial Valley. But they do stay here and make their home in El Centro, and they become members of our community. You know, they are our people. So a lot of them, you know, we will see them working in local grocery stores, housekeeping, restaurants, and they volunteer for many organizations. They are now in El Centro. They are El Centro citizens. Homeless women want a better quality of life. This funding helps us continue to assist the many homeless that we have here. So we see many arrive scared with nowhere to go, but leave with a new outlook on life. This CDBG funding is very important in our community, and I would thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Lupita.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it back to council. Marcela, are you looking for just general guidance from the council, right?
Yes, basically, several years ago when we initiated or started this process, council directed at the time that prior to us starting the RFP process, that council would like to have an opportunity to provide input as to maybe certain services, including certain projects that you would like, you know, for the community to consider as we open up this process. Obviously, when we first became an entitlement city, we were getting about $800,000, and unfortunately, you have seen what has happened to us over the years. And so it's become very, very difficult, including for city departments, to consider projects because of the limited funds that we have available, and of course, not to mention the negative impact it has created, you know, to our public service providers. You know, we do know that they are offering very important services to the community, and we wish that there was more money available, but unfortunately, you know, we have to deal with those reductions. And so, you know, what staff does is it gives the council an opportunity to consider certain areas. I mean, in the past, we've had some residents, for example, from El Dorado Colonia come in and express their concerns as far as, you know, sidewalks and the condition of the streets there. And, you know, staff has been very fortunate to even find other funding sources to be able to address those needs. So at this time, it's just basically an opportunity for council to provide input to staff as to how you would like to see maybe these funds allocated.
Well, the percentages that we've distributed before in terms of is housing activities also a prescribed percentage?
Basically, the way, in terms of priorities, housing is the number one priority in terms of housing. Department of, Housing and Urban Development, it's intended for housing.
It's on the name.
So it's on the name. What staff has been fortunate in terms of the housing area is we have been fortunate that in the past we have submitted grants, for example, to the state through the home program, and we've been able to leverage funding from CDBG. So you have seen that over the years. We try to set aside the minimum amount to allow for other projects to be completed through CDBG. And we've done, obviously, public infrastructure improvements such as sidewalk improvements. Of course, we've done major constructions, and of course, being done in phases because of the limited funds, such as the sports pavilion. So, we've managed to, again, be able to expend the funds based on also the requirements that we have with HUD, that we have to expend these funds within a year timeframe. So that also creates certain challenges for staff as we start to expend these funds.
Thank you. Let me bring it back to council. Jackson?
Marcel, what do you anticipate our public facility infrastructure amount being? What percentage is that?
Basically, if you can see on page, it would be page 379 of your packet. And what we did is we kind of gave you an estimate. And again, I do want to caution that even though we do say that we are projecting based on our existing allocation, there's always that potential that we actually get less. I wish I could say we get more, but we could end up getting less. But just if we estimate that we get the 500,000, that we are receiving currently, the way we have broken out the caps and the going based on the maximum amounts, for instance, for the $501,991, 20% of that, if we use the full amount for grant administration, would be up to 100,000. Public services, again, based on the 15% cap, which we always try to provide, the maximum amount, about 75,289. For other eligible projects, which is basically any kind of housing project, any kind of public facility, public infrastructure, code enforcement, we estimate about 326,000 being available for that type of project. For the program income that we anticipate getting, which is about $50,000, again, very, very limited funding that we have here based upon, what is allowable in terms of grant administration and then also public services. I mean, we're looking at only, $7,500. And then for other eligible projects, about 34. So, about maybe not even $400,000 being available for a public facility type of project. I do have to say that obviously that we are working on a major public facility project, which is the Aquatic Center project. And based on some preliminary conceptual plans that we have and some very preliminary estimates, we are going to be presenting from the Community Services Department a consideration to assist with a financial gap that we currently foresee having on that project. So you will see that. That's something that would be considered, of course, under the other eligible projects. So we are going to request consideration for that. Obviously, it's a project that we currently have under design and we're working on. So that's, from the city standpoint, that's a project that staff is going to be bringing before you for consideration.
Marcela, you and I have met with seniors a number of times, and there are some of the issues that they brought to us is that they'd like to see additional services or a reduction of costs for some of the services that we provide. Are these funds can they be used towards the things that they've discussed with us, and under what category if so?
Well, basically, right now, this type of senior program that we're offering is through Catholic Charities for the senior meal program. The Adult Center is one of the sites where they do deliver meals. However, as Dr. Moser pointed out, what they're using the funds for is for home delivery meals. Obviously, our seniors go to our site. a lot of the programs that they are, and you'll see, because actually December 1st, we are presenting an update on the Adult Center services. You'll see that a lot of the services that we're currently offering and that the seniors want to see were our existing budget through partnerships that we have with agencies such as the county, other partnerships that we're procuring. So we're trying to address those needs through other sources.
But would CDBG funds be eligible?
In the event of CDBG funding, we have to create basically new programs for them. A lot of the programs that we're offering them and services, yes, they are new, but again, we always try as staff to leverage funds, and if we have another opportunity to be able to provide services through other means, we'll do that. And like I said, we're gonna be providing you with a report that shows some of the programs that we are offering to the seniors.
And if we were to use CDBG funds for some unspecified project for right now, what category would that fall under?
For seniors, basically, as included under, it would fall under the public service.
Public service?
So if let's say, for example, community services would be presenting a new, program to you, it would fall under the public service. However, it's very important to keep in mind that right now, our services are open to everyone independent of their income level. If we were to create a program with CDBG, then we would start getting into income information. And so that's another layer of requirement that we need to consider.
And preliminarily, you're saying that there's probably going to be a shortfall on the aquatic center?
That is correct.
Are you able to say what you project right now that you may be asking for?
Well, basically, we anticipate a shortfall about $700,000, $800,000 for that project, and that's including the basic elements that we want to see with that aquatic center project. Unlike what we did with the sports pavilion, you may recall that we actually funded that project with CDBG funds for a period of 6 years. And so with the way, the design is working and the way that project is going to be completed, you can actually, it's conducive to do in phases because there is going to be obviously equipment that's going to be required. And so there's certain things that we can work and be able to fund with this funding in phases. So that's, again, just kind of preview of coming attractions. Or how is it?
Just say all of it.
All right.
Well, if I may, I think our city's done a really good job in helping the efforts of the most vulnerable, which would be, in my opinion, seniors, victims of crime, and the homeless. And I think, our city has paid a particular interest to those most vulnerable groups. And I think we've done a really good job in supporting that. And so I would just encourage that we continue to look at the most vulnerable populations and how we can begin to address, those needs, because those are high needs. And again, I do want to thank staff for bringing them here, and I want to thank all the folks that came and kind of shared a little bit of background on their agency. I think it's very important that you're here and you're sharing big picture strategies with us because it is important. And again, I would just encourage that we still continue to address the most vulnerable populations of our city and supplement those efforts. And those would be my only comments.
Unfortunately, we're capped at 15%.
I hear you. I understand. And in fact, it would be nice if we actually even looked to say, okay, well, what are we doing to fill that gap? Yeah. What economic development opportunities are we looking to supplement those efforts? And I know it's a tall order, but again, my only comment is that we continue to address the most vulnerable populations.
Okay, I agree. Mr. Jackson, Ms. Sanders?
I will yield, Mr. Jackson, you called his name first, so I will come.
I'm just going to say that this is always the toughest part of the year for myself. I would agree. I think we've done everything we can with this funding source to address especially seniors and victims of crime. It's, to me personally, it's devastating to hear that we're serving 131 seniors, and there's 141 on a waiting list. But I appreciate everybody coming in. I think it's always good to hear the stories and the successes that you guys have had based on some of this funding, because it does mean a lot to your programs. And unfortunately, every year we get cut. you know, and it makes it tougher and tougher to try to spread this money around, because all the programs that have spoken today are all great programs and all certainly something we need in this city and this community. So it's going to be tough to try to figure out how to divvy up a really small piece of the pie here. But you know, hopefully we can do the best we can, and you'll find some other funding to help you with that. So,
Ms. Sanders?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo some of the sentiments that already made. However, I still wish for us to look very closely at what we do for the Meals on Wheels. I think that's really important, even though we're only serving 131. That's 131 individuals that are getting a hot meal. And I would also hope we would be able to do something with those individuals that are living in a shelter as battered women and children. So with the $75,000, if we had an ability to expand that, you know, they talk about economy and elasticity, the elastic economy. I wish we could stretch it a little further, but that doesn't seem to work in this area. But if we could look at those two components in particular. I didn't see anything here from individuals that normally have, I'm trying to call the name, they do the children's fair. I didn't see anything.
Oh, the
Anybody?
Child Abuse Prevention
Yes,
Council.
I didn't see anything from that category. Nothing's come in thus far.
No, well, they would, if they're interested in applying, they would come in when we open the
Okay,
RFP process.
okay.
But
So
we
I
did
would-
extend
I
or
would
inform
imagine they would
everybody.
be forthcoming. And as it relates to the other eligible projects, that to me would fall into the category of what might be able to be done with the aquatic center?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I see that having some potential there, especially if we can do it in a multi-year opportunities. Then when it comes to our grant administrations, that's what is needed to actually administer this funds is that-
Yes, the
okay.
delivery of the programs and administration.
So I see, Mr. Mayor, if we can just, at least we know those that have had some measure of success in alleviating some of the, what do I say, alleviating some of the hardships that certain populations are feeling. I recall very vividly when Mrs. Biedra and I and Mr. Duran went to Washington DC and we received that $800,000. There was, we turned cartwheels in the aisles of Congress. In the halls of Congress. And we're now sitting here not being very happy with the reduction. But be that as it may, I still think there's an opportunity to help alleviate some of the hardships for those categories.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Do we give you enough direction?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Marcela.
Thank you.
All right. Public comments. This is the opportunity for people to speak to the council and other matters that are not on the agenda. I do have a request for public comments from Yulil Alonso Garza.
I actually want to hand something that I would like for the city council to consider for action the next meeting. My name is Yulil Alonso Garza, and I am not a current resident of El Centro. I am a concerned resident of the Imperial County, and I come to you as a representative founder of Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition. Our organization was founded in 2013 after our son was murdered in your city. I'm a resident of Brawley, but I'm a graduate from Central Union High School. So in an effort to be proactive, we have been continuously doing work, outreach with anti-gang awareness, in not just Brawley, but all over the county. One of the cities that I've kind of been compelled not to put so much pressure on is in El Centro, because I think it's obvious that I have some hard feelings with what we have and have not done here in regards to our gang violence and the gang activity. And what I would like to propose is for this council, Mr. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and all council members, is for you to consider starting a program, perhaps a committee, or even starting to participate in activities that MAG Coalition is forming and organizing, because I haven't seen many of you at any of our events. And I know they're public, and perhaps I need to make a better effort about reaching out, and that's why I'm here. Because 3 years is approaching since my son was murdered. And I think it's time that our city takes responsibility for what's happening to our youth. We work closely, MAC Coalition works closely with the Imperial County Gang Intelligence Coalition, and we appreciate what they are trying to achieve. But I think our elected officials also have a responsibility. Our agencies around the county have a responsibility. And taking a lot for me to come here to ask that you consider our proposal. And now that I kind of heard about this other funding, I think that's something that we may need to consider into investing in as well. So I don't want to take much of your time. I would like to come back and do a formal presentation and also see an action item in regards to the event on January 6th and January 9th. Your information is an invitation and also to be part of. We are hoping to do a peace walk march from where our son was murdered to the court steps, which is only 4 blocks. And that's something for us to consider. If someone can murder someone only 4 blocks away from the justice system, then we need to start looking at how we can find a solution to diminishing those problems.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Am I hearing that you would come back and do a presentation then? Is that what you would be willing to do at some point?
I would like to do a presentation, but I would also like to ask that a council member consider this, putting this on an agenda item and calling action to either fund, participate, or even form a committee to start looking into what we can do to minimize the gang activity here in El Centro, where it's very concerning and alarming because they're not being respectful of their lines. And I know that there was a list of the safest cities in California, and to my astonishment, I saw Imperial on that list, but we weren't close. And so I would like for us to work on that and maybe even see what other cities are doing to diminish this problem. They're very close to the border, which brings other issues into account. I've been working with the consul as well, and City of Calexico, including Brawley. And what I'm doing is reaching out to you in hopes that we can work something out and hopefully start a relationship.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I will speak to Mr. Duran about the possibility of putting this on the agenda.
And for a sponsorship, for that to occur, we will need her to complete the forms. If she contacts our office, having to do with nonprofit organization.
Yes, we
and then
do
it can come
have.
back to council on the 1st. And this way we don't miss a step on this because it's a very short timeline.
And we do have our nonprofit.
There's actually a application to go
Yes.
through for the sponsorship, and this way it can come to council on the 1st.
And she would get that at city clerk's office?
Actually, if they just come to
Come to
our
his
office,
office.
our staff will handle it.
Make sure you do that.
So we'll see you in 2 weeks then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Any other comments from the public? I see none. Let's come back to the council for task force and council reports. Mr. Cardenas.
Yeah, just really quickly, Mayor, I attended our Citizens Advisory Committee at the Centinela State Prison last week, and there were some updates as far as the conversion to a level 4 transition, or there's a transition plan to bring one of those yards up to level 4. So there's a lot of security and staffing enhancements. But the bottom line is this, Mayor, they are going to be increasing a yard up there to a level 4. So it's quite a bit of activity happening at the state prison in regards to Centinela. And then also just want to remind everybody about the annual bike giveaway that's set for December 18th at 1 o'clock. It's going to be held at the sheriff's office or south on Clark Road. And then I also wanted to give a special thank you to Ms. Villacana. She actually presented your Vision 2050 at our El Centro Kiwanis Club. So she brought out the PowerPoint, brought out some of the pictures. Our Kiwanis Club, they're a pretty savvy group of folks, and so Ms. Villacana did an excellent job in presenting your vision to our Kiwanis Club. And so I'm excited about that going out and to the community, and they were very receptive, and it's really good to see them excited about the future and the fact that we are thinking down the road. So it was kind of a dress rehearsal, and they were very supportive of it. I know Ms. Sanders was there, and I think Ms. Villacana did an excellent job in doing that, and I want to thank you for being there. And in regards, in the last item, Mayor, was the National League of Cities. Just a credible event. I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to go. Great workshops. Spent most of my time in workshops related to downtown ordinances and empty buildings. Looked at a ordinance in regards to the city of San Antonio and regarding the nuisance of vacant buildings. And there was an ordinance that they put together that makes property owners register their buildings as vacant, as being vacant. And one of the conditions of being a registered vacant building is that they have to keep the exterior lighting on in their buildings as a condition of the ordinance. So, you know, they've been able to bring a lot more activity to their downtown areas because they're investing and revisiting those ordinances. So these vacant buildings that are downtown are required to maintain their exterior lighting. So it was interesting to hear the assistant city manager of San Antonio share how that ordinance has been helpful, but I spent most of my time in workshops related to downtown. So hopefully maybe down the road we can take a look at that ordinance and see if it's something that can fit our city. Attended the California League of Cities reception. All they were talking about all night is Mrs. Sanders. So, and how great she is, and you have done an excellent job in representing us in regards to the California League of Cities. Spoke to our president, Dennis Michaels, who's the mayor of Rancho Cucamonga, and again, just a great comments in regards not only to our city, but Ms. Sanders in particular, and then the executive director, Chris McKenzie, and they kind of gave us an update of some of the things that are happening. So again, thank you so much for letting me be a part of that, and I really enjoyed it, and maybe we can take a look at some of those ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Jackson?
I don't have very much, but I will say I attended a Veterans Day celebration that was put on by the city of La Quinta on Veterans Day. And, you know, one thing that I thought about is that there's really, I mean, I know there's a small parade and such in Hopeville, but none of the major cities within Imperial County put on a major Veterans Day event. And seeing how we have the naval facility here, and we are kind of very friendly towards military, I just thought that they really put on a class act event, and something that I'd like to have a discussion about, maybe planning for next year, and maybe unveiling our own kind of celebration for Veterans Day. I think it's important to celebrate our veterans, and there's certainly a nice model that La Quinta does. They actually have an art piece in their by their city hall, and they honor residents of their city every year. People put in an application, and they honor so many every year, and then they have their names etched into this piece of art that's in their city square. But just a real class act, and just something that when I was there, I thought, wow, that's something that we could maybe, you know, emulate and just make, you know, something else for us to be proud of. So I'll probably be bringing that back to council for some discussion, and maybe staff for some planning for possibly next year. So that's all I have.
Ms. Sanders?
Mr. Mayor, I want to just thank Mr. Cardenas for conveying those kind words that came from the California League, especially Mr. Michaels and Mr. McKenzie. So, Mr. Cardenas, thank you for sharing. The things that are upcoming for, hospital meeting is scheduled the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. ICTC will go dark this month. AAA will have its meeting on Thursday, and the league is having its meeting this week as well. We will be listening to the Oversight Board. That meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. So everything that I would have to report will be coming out on the 1st of December.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. First, I wanted to congratulate Mr. Jackson on being the top vote getter at the council election. So congratulations, Jason. Sedelia, we're going to miss you tremendously. And there's a lot more accolades that will come your way.
Well, you know, I will miss all of you, but now it must be time for me to step back into private life. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to sit at the dais with you. I am very appreciative to the residents of this community and the citizens in particular who voted for me. All of the individuals have served in my campaign over the years. And believe it or not, there are several members of my campaign that were with me in the beginning. So they're still around, and we all sucked lemons for about 2 hours, and then we decided to make lemonade.
Ms. Anderson, I know that, again, there's a lot more accolades to come your way in the next few weeks. I did attend the CRLA open house last week. I was asked by staff what the council would think about the possibility of canceling the January 7th then? The 7th council meeting, the 5th, January 5th council meeting. Staff is requesting this. If there was a need to meet, that we would meet. However, because of the holidays and the agenda deadlines that come into place, it gets tricky and a little complicated to have a council meeting. I'm okay with that, with the provision that if something surfaces, that we can always reschedule it or not. But
Let me tell you now, I'm okay with that.
so, thank you, Ms. Sanders. Ms. Jackson, you have any concerns with that, Mr.
I have no concerns.
Okay. Save a date for us. December 11th is going to be a real busy day for you, Mr. Jackson.
11th?
December the 11th. Two events going on that day related to our sisterhood agreement with Mexicali. One of them is, you know how we do the El Centro Day with the Padres, where we get a block of tickets and they're sold to the community. The Soles are going to have El Centro Day. December the 11th, they have delivered to the city a set of advanced tickets. Now, bear in mind that the way the system works in Mexicali for the Soles, people cannot get advanced tickets. You have to buy them the day of the event unless you have a season pass, but you cannot get individual game tickets. They're making an exception for us. They have delivered a block of tickets. I think there's going to be some publicity. Go out, and if you can encourage the Kiwanis and other groups to go with us. This is the first time we do it. Tickets are $10 a piece. Really high-level basketball. If you like basketball, you will be impressed with the quality of play and the players I have. They have some European players on the team. They have a young man that just completed his playing career at Kentucky. And so really high-level quality. I contacted the Centro High School District today about the possibility of one of the pep bands, either Southwest or Central, being there and kind of playing there, or the cheerleaders doing some halftime performance, or the Zabapa group. So I'm waiting to hear from Central High School District and Mr. Montaño to see if one of those groups can join us as well. And that's going to start at 8 o'clock on the 11th. Earlier in the day, there's a state in Mexico, southern Mexico, called Oaxaca. And the state of Oaxaca is known for their crafts, their food. The state of Oaxaca is interested in coming to El Centro to promote itself to the community so that they can begin to be a tourist destination for the Imperial Valley residents. So they're going to be here. A contingency from Oaxaca is going to be here, and the 11th is the only day they can be here. So they've asked us to use our old post office pavilion, where they're going to set up some exhibits. There will be some truly authentic Oaxaca food for us to taste, and some other invited guests. And again, it's a mechanism for us to see Oaxaca as a place that we would want to visit on vacation. So that's going to be at 6:30 in the afternoon at the old post office, and I plan to be there for a short while and then head over to Mexicali for the Solis game.
I believe they'd come to our fair. I've seen them
They
at the
do,
fair.
they do, yes.
They've come to the fair before.
Right.
Remember them at the fair when you were on the board?
Yeah, they were, I'm pretty sure they're the same group.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Anything else from the council?
I guess I should the reorganizations.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, the reorganization date has been set for December 3rd, 6:30 here in the council chambers, as well as the courtyard. There'll be a reception afterwards, food and music, and we'll have a little party, so.
You know, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say, I want to thank Mr. Hagan. That information you provided on the preparedness of El Nino, the email he sent out, some pretty good information, and I appreciate you following up on that request, and thank you. Maybe we can even put some of that on our Facebook or something, but that's information. I appreciate you following up on that.
Thank you. So meeting is adjourned.
Good luck to you guys.